So, today's topic is rabies, the most fatal disease on earth. Rabies, a disease so dangerous that once the symptoms begins, there is no known cure. It attacks the brain, causes intense fear of water and leads to a painful death within days. What's more alarming is that this disease is entirely preventable, yet it still kills thousands every year. Let's understand who the real culprits are and how we can stop this silent killer. Moving on into the next slide, we will understand about who are the culprits. So, rabies, as I told, is one of the most feared viral diseases in the world. It has nearly 100% fatality rate once the symptom begins. This means that once the symptoms is shown in a person, that person is meant to die. He has no chance to get out of that. Caused by the rabies virus, which attacks the brain and nervous system. In our upcoming slides, we will understand what the rabies virus does when it enters our body. So this slide tells us who are the culprits. So the culprits are the rabies virus. Let's uncover how this virus works, spreads, and why it's so deadly. Now, what is rabies? Rabies is a zoonotic disease. What is zoonotic disease? Zoonotic disease is a disease that is transmitted from animals to humans, caused by the rabies Lisa virus, a member of Rhabdoviridae family. This is a picture of the rabies virus where we can see the matrix protein, the polymerase, and the phosphoproteins, and this is the RNA, and this is the glycoprotein. In our upcoming slide, we will go into the detailed structure of the rabies virus. So for now, let's move on to the next point. It primarily affects the central nervous system, that is the CNS. So we know CNS is the complete nervous system which is handling and controlling our total body. So if it affects the central nervous system, that means it has the control over our whole body. Without timely vaccination, the disease is almost always fatal. That means if you don't get vaccinated, the disease will be caused and it will lead to death. So, let's see what the next slide says. It says about the history and discovery. Known since ancient times, even mentioned in Mesopotamian laws, that is 2300 BC. The word rabies comes from Latin rabere, meaning to rage. That means the anger. In 1885, Louis Pasteur developed the first rabies vaccine, a major milestone in medicine. This person was the first to identify the rabies virus, and he was the first to develop the rabies vaccine. Moving on into the next slide. How rabies spreads. We will understand how rabies spreads. Transmission occurs through the bite or scratch of an infected animal. That means the animal, if infected with the rabies virus, that animal is a rabid animal. And if that rabid animal bites or scratches you, then you can get rabies definitely from that. This virus is present in saliva of the infected animal. So if you see any dog drooling, that can be a rabid dog. Common carriers. Let's see who are the common carriers. The common carriers are dogs, most common worldwide. Here we can see which is most common over worldwide, and we always know that rabies is caused by dogs or by the bite of a dog, but it's not always the case. It can also be caused by bats, that is the main source in the Americas. Foxes, raccoons, skunks, and cats can also cause you rabies. Rarely it can spread via organ transplants or aerosols in labs. So these are very rare cases where you can see that this is the mode of the rabies virus spreading, that is organ transplants or aerosols in labs. But in most of the cases, dogs is the most common worldwide. But in Americas, the stray dogs are very rare. So there the main source is bats. Apart from that, we can also see foxes, raccoons, skunks, and cats. Let's move on to the next slide. The next slide says about a diagram that is almost attached, and let's see the path of infection. This diagram specifically shows the path of infection inside the body. How does the rabies virus spread? As I told you in the first slide, virus first enters the body through a wound. It can be a bite, it can be a scratch. Travels along the peripheral nerves towards the spinal cord and brain. Once it reaches the brain, inflammation, that is encephalitis, begins. Always when I will use this term encephalitis, that will mean inflammation. So if it reaches brain, immediately it starts to inflame that region and it captures the whole brain. The virus then moves to the salivary glands, making the host infectious. Now after reaching the brain, it doesn't stop there. It controls the whole CNS and then comes and attacks the salivary glands, and then it makes the host infectious. This journey can take weeks to months depending on bite location and viral load. That means anyone who is affected by the rabies virus doesn't mean that he will show the symptoms within a few days or within a few hours. This journey of the path of infection can take weeks to months depending on where the person has been bitten by the dog or any carrier and how much is the viral load. So as we can see in this picture clearly that this dog, after the biting, the virus enters via this animal bite. Virus replicates in the muscles at the site of bite. So here the replication takes place. After that, what happens is that virus infects the nerve in peripheral nervous system, moves by retrograde transport. So retrograde transportation moves the virus to the brain. After this, what happens? Virus replicates in the dorsal root ganglion and travels up the spinal cord to brain. Then the brain gets infected. That means it now has the whole control over the brain. Then what happens? Virus travels from the brain via nerves to other tissues such as eyes, kidneys, salivary glands. Okay? So this is what the path of infection looks like and what happens when the rabies virus enters our body. Now moving on into the next slide, we will see the incubation period. Usually the incubation period is 1 to 3 months, but it can also range from a few days to even a year. Shorter incubation period equals to more dangerous. Example, bites near head or neck. If the rabid dog or any carrier bites near the head or neck, that causes the incubation period very shorter and it is more dangerous because the viral load is very high when scratches or bites in the head or the neck, and the virus also spreads very fast to the brain. So in that case, the incubation period is shorter and that is also more dangerous. During this period, the person shows no symptoms. That means during this incubation period, there will be no symptoms. So as the virus attacks and starting of the new symptoms, so that period between is the incubation period. So in between, there will be no symptoms. So moving on into the next slide, we can see the early symptoms. As we can see from the pictures, we can understand there will be fever, there will be mental disorders. So fever, headache, weakness and fatigue, pain, itching or tingling at the bite site, that is a key early sign. Anxiety, there will be confusion, there will be restlessness. These symptoms mimic a mild flu, making early diagnosis difficult. That means when we have these kinds of symptoms, like if we have fever, if we have a headache, weakness or a fatigue, we always think that it might be a viral fever or it might be a just mild flu and we just ignore it and by taking some antibiotics. But what happens is that it deteriorates within time. As the time passes by, it deteriorates, and this causes the danger, and this can lead to more load of infection. So the early diagnosis is very difficult when these are the early symptoms. Then moving on into the next slide, what we see is the advanced symptoms. So apart from the fever, itching, all these symptoms, what are the advanced symptoms? There are two forms of rabies. Now let's understand what are the two forms of rabies. One is the furious rabies, which is around 80% of cases, and another one is the paralytic or the dumb rabies. So what is the furious rabies? The furious rabies is the agitation, hallucinations, fear of water, that is hydrophobia, fear of air, that is aerophobia. So these are the symptoms in which these are the advanced symptoms. This means that it has passed the fever, itching, all those phases, and now it has gone to a higher level where now the person is showing some agitation, the person is hallucinating, and even the noise of a water can be a very much frightening thing for that person. So he will be so much hydrophobic. There will be fear of air, that is aerophobia. So this is the case of furious rabies, when the rabies is in a furious stage. So this is in 80% cases. And there is the 20% cases where the rabies is paralytic or dumb rabies, which is okay. For the furious rabies, another point is there, that is then excessive salivation and violent behavior will be there. And in the case of paralytic and dumb rabies, we can see there will be gradual paralysis leading to coma and ultimately to death. Death usually occurs within a few days of symptoms onsets. So in the paralytic or dumb rabies, the person will not show any kind of agitation. He will not be aggressive. He will not be furious. He will not show any kind of rage. But he will be in a paralytic state where he will be leading to coma and ultimately death. So moving on into why hydrophobia happens. Why do hydrophobia happens? So attempting to swallow causes painful throat spasms. That means when we try to swallow the water or swallow anything, the throat pains a lot. Even the sight or sound of water can trigger severe muscle contractions. Even when there is a slight sound of water tinkling, there can be a trigger in our muscles. Our muscles will contract and that will cause a pain. The fear isn't psychological, it's due to neurological damage. So if anyone thinks that hydrophobia is a psychological disease, then it's not. It's a neurological damage where the neurons are affected and neurons are damaged. Okay? Moving on into the next slide, it's very important, that is diagnosis. How we will diagnose the disease. No single tests can confirm rabies early. If a person is rabid or if a person is bitten by a rabid dog, a single test cannot tell that person is containing the rabies virus. Lab methods includes RT-PCR, that for viral RNA, that is with saliva, cerebrospinal fluid and other tissues. Immunofluorescence for detecting viral antigens in skin biopsy. So we will scratch a skin part and then we will perform biopsy for detecting the viral antigens with the help of immunofluorescence. Then there are different kinds of serological tests for antibodies, which is done in a later stage. Clinically, diagnosis is often based on history of exposure plus symptoms. So what kind of exposure the person was exposed to and what kind of symptoms are done, or what kind of symptoms the person is showing, on basis of that the diagnosis is done. So what are the treatments? Once the symptom starts, there is no effective cure. So whatever we have to do before the symptom starts. Only supportive care like sedation, ventilation, giving continuous fluids can only treat that person. Some rare survivors exist after aggressive ICU treatment. So if a person is kept in ICU treatment and given with an aggressive care, some cases have been seen. For that, we will understand the Milwaukee Protocol. What is the Milwaukee Protocol? In Milwaukee, in the year 2004, a young patient survived rabies. So this is called as the Milwaukee Protocol. But these outcomes are very poor. So this is not taken into account. Prevention after exposure. So what does this means? That if a person is exposed to rabies virus or a rabid animal, what prevention can that person take? First is, if bitten or scratched, immediate wound washing with soap and running water for 15 minutes at least. Apply povidone, iodine or alcohol to the wound. Seek medical care immediately. Post-exposure prophylaxis. What does this mean? Rabies vaccine should be given, that is 4 to 5 doses. Rabies immunoglobulin should be given to the injected around the wound. And if done correctly and on time, then there can be 100% prevention. Now let's understand pre-exposure vaccination. What does pre-exposure vaccination mean? This means that even before the exposure of the person to a rabid animal, the person is taking a vaccination to protect itself previously. So it is recommended not for all, because the rabies vaccine is of course very much costly. So we can't afford it to give it to all person, but it is given to veterinarians, animal handlers, laboratory workers, travelers to endemic areas, given as 3 doses on the day 0, 7 and 21 or 28th. So it is not possible to give this vaccine to all the person. Global burden. So around 59,000 deaths every year globally has been seen. Over 95% of cases occur in Asia and Africa, because the stray dogs are huge in Asia and Africa. Most victims are children under the age of 15 years. Rabies is 100% preventable, yet people still die due to lack of awareness and access to vaccines. Now, the vaccines can be given to people. Now we can say that why are the people not vaccinated? Why the vaccinations are not made mandatory like the COVID vaccine? Now the reason is that the vaccines for rabies is very much costly. It's not possible for the government to afford that vaccine for free to each and every person. So due to that, we tell that to vaccinate the dogs, not the person. Rabies in animals. Common signs. What are the common signs? Aggression, biting, drooling and disorientation. Nocturnal animals if seen during the day. Vaccinating pets is the most effective way to stop the rabies transmission. Here we can see two pictures where a dog is drooling, and this dog is showing aggression and disorientation of the body. Now, rabies virus structure. Let's understand in very short what is the structure of the rabies virus. If anyone is curious to know the rabies virus structure, he or she can just go through this slide. Otherwise, you can just skip this part and move on. Now, this rabies virus is an enveloped bullet-shaped virus. Okay. So here we can see this is a kind of bullet-shaped virus where they have, and basically it is single-stranded negative sense RNA with a 12 kilobase pair. It has 5 structural proteins, specifically N, P, M, G, and the G protein helps the virus to attach to the cells via acetylcholine receptors. Okay. So what happens is that these are the G proteins, as we can see. These are the G proteins. This is the host acetylcholine receptor. This is the N, that is the nucleoprotein. This is the P, that is phosphoprotein. This is the L, that is large polymerase protein. And this is the M, matrix protein. So these are the 5 proteins we can see. So these are the 5 proteins we can see. So this is the structure of the rabies virus. This is a very simple structure of the rabies virus. Now, moving on into the next slide, what is the pathogenesis? Virus first binds to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors at neuromuscular junctions. So, where are these nicotinic acetylcholine receptors? These nicotinic acetylcholine receptors are in the body of the host. Host body is containing these acetylcholine receptors in the neuromuscular junctions, and the virus, when it enters the body, it exactly binds to these receptors, these acetylcholine receptors. What happens is that after binding, it moves retrogradely through the axons to the central nervous system, causes neuronal dysfunction, not cell death initially. As I told you, it will not cause the cell death initially, but it will completely capture your brain CNS and it will cause neural dysfunction. Results in encephalitis, as I told, with Negri bodies. Now, what are Negri bodies? Negri bodies are distinctive eosinophilic inclusions found within the cytoplasm of neurons affected by the rabies virus. So if a person is affected by a rabies virus, then only we can see these Negri bodies. Now let's see the picture of the Negri bodies. These are the Negri bodies. These are basically the Negri bodies. So in these Negri bodies, these are small Negri bodies which is present within our cytoplasm. This is a structure of the neurons, and in these neurons, this is the cytoplasm where these Negri bodies are formed. These are eosinophilic inclusions which are formed, and these are composed of viruses and the proteins. So in these Negri bodies, the viruses and proteins stay. So this is a diagnostic sign. When we perform any heterological tests, we can understand if the Negri bodies are present. We can say that the person is affected by the rabies virus. Now, how to control rabies and how to eradicate it? Dog vaccination campaigns are the key to controlling rabies. It should be must. Public awareness and stray animal control reduces transmissions. So public should be aware, and animal control, stray animal control should be done. WHO and OIE target eliminate human rabies death by 2030. That is 0 by 30 initiative, which means that by the year of 2030 there will be 0 human rabies death. So dog vaccination is mandatory. Coming into the summary, rabies is 100% preventable, as I told you, yet it is 100% fatal once the symptoms appear. So whatever you do it before the symptoms appear. Vaccination, awareness and responsible pet ownership are the keys to elimination. Dog owners should vaccinate, aware and be responsible for their pets. Not only dogs, even cats and other animals. Always treat any animal bite seriously. Any animal can cause you rabies. So we don't know which animal is containing the rabies virus. So it's better to treat that. Don't let it go just because it's just a normal bite. It might not be a lion's attack or tiger's attack, but even if it is a dog, it's a small stray dog, it can, even if it is a puppy, it can cause you rabies. So better you treat that seriously. So World Rabies Day is celebrated on the 28th of September. So in that day, campaigns are set, and globally there is awareness spread to vaccinate the dogs. Now, finally, coming to the last slide and the ending slide, I would like to say to all of you, if you ever see someone bitten by a dog or any kind of wild animal, please act fast. Rabies kills silently, but knowledge saves lives. So please share this video to spread awareness. It might save someone's life. And if you like this video, do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and please spread awareness to save the lives. Thank you.